Hello, friends. I'm here again tonight, and the Northern Lights are doing their thing behind me. It really is night when I'm recording this, and that's a virtual background in case you hadn't figured that out. But I'm here to continue with my series on assessing the credibility of specifically Elena Danaan as the emissary of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Excuse me. And I think I will divide this section into two parts. This is based on an article by Dan Willis, which I'll post a link to in the description so you can go look at it yourself. But basically, it's going to divide into two types of evidence. One is sort of impersonal, and the other is more personal, but it's not going to be a hard and fast division. It's just that there's so much material in Dan's article that it's really hard to cover it with any kind of thoroughness in less than maybe 45 minutes to an hour, 45 to 90 minutes perhaps. But I'm just going to include a little bit here of personal testimony in terms of people endorsing Elena. Dan Willis himself is one who endorses her, and he says, there are a lot of different voices today claiming inside knowledge of what is happening in our solar system and beyond. In my research, only Elena Danaan has an ongoing history of revealing information that no one without direct knowledge could possibly know. Then later, that information becomes public knowledge and verified, thus continuing to establish her credibility. Okay, so that's Dan's view, and he gives examples. So he starts off with what he says are three examples, but then he added another one, so it's actually four. One having to do with planets of the Alpha, Beta, and Proxima Centauri star system. Another having to do with the planet Neptune. Another one having to do with a great earthquake that occurred on Mars. And then finally, the fourth one is the UFO flyover that was evidently organized by Elena at the request of Danny Henderson for the GSIC Connection Conference in Westminster, Colorado in September 2024. So we'll cover those things in detail in this little episode. And before we go there, I want to quote Dr. Michael Salla, who is, his business, he made it his business beginning about 20 years ago to focus on exopolitics, which is the political agendas of ETs as they affect Earth. And Dr. Sala wrote, this kind of scientific corroboration is an important reason why I enjoy working with Elena and believe her information from her Galactic Federation sources is reliable and well worth considering to get the big picture of what is happening on Earth, in our solar system, and beyond. So there's a list of events. I'm not going to go through all of those. There are quite a few. I will touch upon some of them, go into some detail with some. So it starts, and then he goes into more detail about some of them. And one of them was the first one, 2018, November 10th. Thorhan's spaceship arrives in Ireland and beams Elena on board. Pilots and several news media reported this fleet of UFOs. So nobody on Earth that we know of actually saw Elena get beamed up. But there was great, considerable verification that a UFO flap, so to speak, occurred on that night. And so I'll read this part here where it talks about that. On the night of the 9th to the 10th of November 2018, Elena saw the orange ships hovering over the bay on the west coast of Ireland, where she lived at the time. A flash of sparkling light showered down upon her in her bedroom, and she was beamed up inside of Thorhan's ship in a big flash of blue light. And of course, this is similar to what you've seen with the Starship Enterprise and the transporter from the original Star Trek series until now. The following morning, Irish newspapers printed that there had been UFO sightings over the west of the country. The radio recordings of pilots who had flown over that area and the air control tower's transmissions went viral on the internet. It was called the Shannon UFO incident. In this report, experts conclude that the incident wasn't a natural phenomenon nor a military operation, and advance instead the hypothesis that it was a real UFO fleet. And so, for reference, we can read Elena's full account of the incident and 10 references from the media, 10 articles. So, there was an interesting correlation between Elena's publication of her book, A Gift from the Stars, in which she stated that governments on Earth were working with the Galactic Federation. So that was 2020, December 7th. That was 3 months before Professor Chaim Eshed, former head of the Israeli Space Agency, announced that President Trump, in his first term in office, had been in contact with the Galactic Federation and wanted to reveal their existence, but they asked him not to for the time being. And there are others. I'll just read the ones that are explained in more detail here. 2021, July 6th, Thorhan reveals Dark Fleet evacuation from Antarctica confirmed by a McMurdo base employee who wrote an email to Elena. Apparently, he had heard her talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, I can see Chinese people coming in, German people, German-speaking people leaving," which was basically what she was saying. 2021, July 17, Thorhan reveals the Jupiter meeting agreements, which corroborates with the signing of the Artemis Accords. So the Artemis Accords are public on Earth, and they have to do with acknowledging the United States as the leader in space exploration and various nations, China being a notable exception, agreeing to collaborate with the United States. And there's some other additional corroboration um, featuring General James Dickinson. And corroboration. Corroboration, collaboration, no, it's corroboration, is only partial because General Dickinson does not admit to having been off planet and meeting with the Galactic Federation and so on. But nevertheless, there's a general that they can name and say, yeah, we met with him. So this is an interesting one. 2021, August 30th. Thorhan reveals the full text of the Prime Directive matching what was given to Gene Roddenberry back in the day. You remember the Prime Directive from Star Trek? Well, that actually came from the Galactic Federation. And the updated version that was recently given by them is quoted here in its entirety, and it matches very closely the version that Gene Roddenberry put out in a relatively unknown book, which nevertheless exists. But there's no evidence that Elena had ever seen that book and copied what was in it or anything like that. And Dr. Michael Salla did a a detailed comparison of the two versions of the Prime Directive and concluded they were most likely from the same source. Yeah, so it says Elena never had had exposure to Roddenberry's fiction book. Now, the Prime Directive is an artifact of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. There are other ETs who do not consider themselves to be bound by it. So it goes on and on and on. There are a lot of detailed things here. There's an interesting point about the Intergalactic Confederation. Um, and I'll read that. Thorhan reveals arrival of Intergalactic Confederation is activating space arcs in our solar system. Now, the story of the space arcs is very interesting. Noah's Ark was a spaceship, and it wasn't the only ark that was used to save humanity at the time of the Great Flood, as it's called in mythology, and that's a mythology that can be found worldwide. So anyway, this says on January 4th, 2022, I received an important update about ancient space arcs being discovered on the Moon, Mars, Antarctica, and other locations in our solar system. Anyway, it talks about the Intergalactic Confederation fleet, which, as I recall, in which the information given to Elena said there were 500 motherships that arrived in the solar system. Each of them has a million scout ships. I think that's what was said. It might be the whole sum total of them had a million scout ships, but I think what was said was that each mothership had a million. And it says here, Thorhan's update is startling corroboration for information recently released by my U.S. Army insider. And I think this is a quote from Exopolitics. So um, Dr. Sala calls JP my U.S. Army insider because JP went to Dr. Sala with his disclosures, his whistleblowing, if you will. Although it was approved, of course, it was approved whistleblowing. Um, and anyway, JP told Dr. Sala that he had visited one of these activated space arcs and on the moon, and then he later visited one in the on Earth under the Atlantic Ocean. So there was another video by Elena, which she mentioned that the Intergalactic Confederation was first mentioned and first became known to the people of Earth 55 years ago in 1969 via the contact experience of a certain Frenchman, Robert L., and um, that he had been spoken to by a tall white. It's a type of ET. They're also called Keely-Tokert. Very interesting name, but they're very common, and some of them are members of the Intergalactic Confederation. So, um, also the nine, who are sort of managing body of the Intergalactic Confederation, were mentioned to Robert L., and Elena talks about them as well. So, what does that prove? You know, it proves either the information is valid and it was first disclosed several decades ago, and Elena is also disclosing more details about it, or at least the two stories are in sync and more details are being revealed about it. So that's an interesting corroboration. And then there's the story where Thorhan revealed the existence of the space arc in the Atlantic Ocean, and then a week later, JP went on a mission there. So it wasn't that he came out with information about it a week after Thorhan spoke of it through Elena, but he went on the mission a week after Thorhan had revealed the existence of that ship, that space arc, and then sometime after that disclosed the details to Dr. Sala. Now, here we get into, no, so we're talking about JP. So this is going to be the second part of my second part of this part, right? The part based on Dan Willis's article. And so I will come back and talk about some of these other corroborations. But now let's go to, um, I'm going to scroll down here just to have a little look. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the Proxima Centauri system. In Elena's 2020 book, A Gift from the Stars, she showed an illustration that the Proxima Centauri system had three big inhabited planets and a few planetoids. Now, if you go to YouTube, you'll see that Proxima Centauri b, which is in the habitable zone of Proxima Centauri, um, there's a lot of controversy about that. What is the James Webb Telescope showing us? Is it showing us lights? And then there's a Breakthrough Listen project that's listening because they think they received a signal from Proxima Centauri. So anyway, um, the inhabited nature of those planets hasn't been confirmed by Earthbound science, but the fact that there are three planets there has been, and that came out later. Um, and it's called a possible third planet. It hasn't been definitely confirmed by terrestrial telescopes and astronomers, but that was pretty interesting. She also said that there are, in addition to the three inhabited planets orbiting Proxima Centauri, there are four around Alpha Centauri and six around Beta Centauri. So we can look for that information to be confirmed in the future. Now, there are people saying that Elena doesn't know what she's talking about or she's just making stuff up. Okay, but human science, human science is probing these matters. So in the future, when we learn for sure how many planets there are around large planets around Proxima Centauri, how many large planets there are around Alpha and Beta Centauri, we can see if the numbers line up, right? 3, 4, and 6, respectively. So Elena has the guts, if you will, or simply the confidence to come out with specific numbers and say, this is this is how it is, which means when we have the means by our instruments to find out for sure, that will be corroborated. Or if not, then people can say, hey, you were just making all that up. And she's not going to do that to her reputation or the reputation of the Galactic Federation. So people coming to me and saying, her information is false and nothing she says is going to happen. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. I'm sorry. There are some bits in here about Jean-Charles Moyen, whom I will talk about later. And the space arcs, when the Intergalactic Confederation motherships entered the solar system, space arcs started activating on the moon, on Earth, and on other planets in the solar system. Neptune was one of them. A space arc near the south pole of Neptune activated, and Thorhan said, "You will notice this from Earth. Astronomers will tell you something unusual is going on near the south pole of Neptune." And sure enough, it happened. So what was the timing of this? On March 28th, Elena received the message about the space arcs activating. And on April 15th, a NASA science study found unexpected temperature changes on Neptune. There was crystal technology information conveyed by Jenhan Eredian, Thorhan's brother, corroborating Dr. Marcel Vogel's research and extending some of the results that Vogel had reached or had determined, and even slightly correcting some of them. So this information was used in an event that Elena and Dan sponsored. And this was an event of people meditating and using crystals and trying to influence the timeline. And this resulted in a spike of the Schumann resonance during the period that they were meditating. So the Earth responded, and that's what they were looking for. A large earthquake on Mars, which was caused by the beginning of terraforming of Mars under Galactic Federation sponsorship, I guess. Huh. So Elena sent a message to an email to Dr. Michael Sala on April 29th, 2 days after Thorhan had told her that there had been a severe earthquake on Mars. And 1 week later, on May 4th, 2022, NASA reported the largest earthquake ever detected on another planet in the solar system. So it goes on. There's a beautiful picture here, a photograph taken from the ISS of um, a fleet of intergalactic Confederation ships, and this was published. It's on YouTube. There is a video called "UFO Fleet Passes Space Station" on May 6th, so you could find that. And I'm just scrolling down. There's more. And there's a star maker symbol that was seen in remote viewing that was um, correlated with Elena's description of Jenhan Eredian's star maker uniform patch. So this is the insignia of a terraformer in the Galactic Federation. Um, Excuse me while I scroll down, because I don't want to miss anything important. Well, there are a lot of other examples here, quite a few, and I can just sit here and scroll and scroll and scroll, and I'm getting near the bottom, right? I think one of the very important things, because it was the event that kicked off the current drone furor or UFO flap involving so-called drones, and that was the arrangement for a UFO flyover of Galactic Federation scout ships on September 27th, 2024, over the Westminster, Colorado hotel where the GSIC conference was being held. And there are videos of that on the YouTube, and 1,000 people witnessed it. So there were two or more than one type of ship that was seen, in addition to the Galactic Federation ships, which flew above the 62-mile limit established by NORAD. There was a TR-3B triangular ship, which is man-made, that also flew overhead. And these are equilateral triangles, and I think the standard size for them is 600 feet on a side, 2 football fields in length. This event was covered in Star Nation News episode 49 by Elena Denon, and there are 5 additional references. So that was a very important one. You can't say it didn't happen. And it's illogical to um, try to assert that it was a coincidence or something like that. Doesn't make sense. So I will be back in the next video talking about some of these personalities like JP and Jean-Charles Moyen, and also a little more about Danny Henderson and her friendship with Elena and Danny's a little bit about Danny's background and um, her endorsement of Elena. And she's very passionate. She says NASA listens to Elena Denon. And she's very emphatic that, we're not talking theory here. We're not talking supposition. We're talking facts. Get over it. Get used to it. She's a little bit confrontational, but in a very nice way. She's an intense but sweet person. Maybe not always sweet. She could be a fearsome warrior, I think. So I do urge you to go look at that article by Dan Willis. And the case of Jean-Charles Moyen is very interesting, and I'll go into some detail about him next time. And another person whose stories are generally corroborative of Elena's is Tony Rodriguez. So we'll go into all that next time, but I hope you enjoyed this. And my objective here, of course, is to establish not Elena's credibility because the facts establish that, and lots of other people are involved in it, and my input is not needed. It might be appreciated, but it's not actually needed. So it's not that. It's just to establish with you why this channel represents an endorsement of Elena, and I will talk about a lot of other subjects and certain other people, and I'll give my own endorsements, my own opinion of certain people that I think are very credible, and the ones I'm not particularly convinced are credible, I will have less to say about. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if it takes me quite a while to get to somebody, that you should assume in the meantime that I don't think they're credible. But again, well, I have a futurist perspective, and that's going to influence my choice of subject matter and so on. So I think that's all I need to say here. These videos are not scripted. If I come up with one that's scripted, well, it could be scripted because I'm reading something I've written or reading something somebody else has written. But beyond that, my comments are spontaneous, extemporaneous. And, certainly the exact words or anything like them, or even sometimes the flow of ideas, uh, is not planned in advance in these videos. I'm looking forward to, well, I think I've said this before, having some other people on to talk, and we'll be discussing things and providing you with different perspectives, not just solely mine. So thanks for listening. Like if you really did like the video, subscribe, hit the bell button so that you'll get notifications. Visit my Facebook groups, join them if you wish. That's about all I've got going on right now other than the YouTube channel. And Instagram is probably coming, X might be coming, Telegram might be coming. I don't know how much time I will have to spend on those things, but eventually I'd like to build out some more opportunities for people to connect with me. And there's a video coming also talking about what it's like to be a second string person because, I consider Elena Denon is first string and Alex Collier is first string and Jean Charles is first string. a lot of people, and so there were contactees and star seeds and people who were in the secret space program. Those are first string people. Dr. Sala may be first string, but he's more like second string, which is people who are focused on publicizing, interviewing, and publicizing. And conflict radio is another good one. Now you have another type of first stringers, which I could become one of those, which are remote viewers. And if in the future, I have more time to devote to remote viewing, I will come on here and say, well, I remote viewed this and subject, and this is what I got. But in the meantime, I will point you to others that I know are excellent remote viewers and their results. So I'm in the second string or third string category. I call it third string because I just recently all of this became a hot topic with me. And I decided to go down the rabbit hole and to take those of you that are interested along with me. And that's basically what's going on here. But I think over time, I will develop more authority, so to speak, or more credibility myself as somebody who um, has a good handle on this information. And I'll be here to help bring others along. And it's not a competition. I'm not competing with Elena. I'm not competing with Dr. Sala. I'm not competing with any of the other people whose names I mention and that I speak of favorably. No, I'm here to say, look, there is plenty of meat on this bone, so to speak, for all of us. And I'm here to chew on it a little bit and to, you know, give pieces of the yeah, this is a terrible metaphor, isn't it? We're eating an animal. All right, I don't know. I do eat animals, but it's probably not something we need to talk about in detail. All right, but you get the point. There's plenty of opportunity for meaningful discussion, opinions, analyses, commentary, all that sort of thing. So that's my spot. I don't know if I need to do that video now. I talked about it already, didn't I? But if I have my thinking about it becomes more refined and more pointed and more detailed, then I will have, material for another video on that subject. So I have at least one more coming about credibility. And then it will become something, I think, after that I just mention occasionally in context of other things I'm talking about. And that's all for now. So I bid you adieu. Till next time. Thank you for listening.